Good evening. Welcome to the public meeting of the Standing Committee on Social Development. We're here. We have one agenda item, review of Bill 57. Before we get into it, I've asked Mr. Bolio to open up with a prayer.
Mr. Chairman. Heavenly Father, I pray today for guidance as we do the important work for the people of the territories. I pray that we're able to do this with respect and dignity appropriate at the positions we hold. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Bolio. So like I said, we have one agenda item, but before we do that, I'm going to turn to my left and get my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Tom Bolio, MLA from Tuneda-Willowday.
Good evening. Welcome. Michael Nadler, MLA for Dextro.
Good evening, Shane Thompson, Nehende, as well. We have Sheila McPherson, our law clerk, Paul Taylor, our committee advisor, and Jennifer Frankie Smith, committee clerk. So can I have a mover to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Mr. Bolio. All in favor? Okay. Any conflicts of declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Again, welcome to the public meeting of the Standing Committee on Social Development. This evening, the Standing Committee of Social Development is holding a public clause-by-clause review of Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act. Bill 57, sponsored by the Department of Education, Culture, and Employment, amended the Employment Standards Act to extend the period of entitlement to unpaid parental leave and to provide for parental sharing of leave, extend the period of entitlement to unpaid compassionate leave, provide an entitlement to unpaid family caregivers leave to allow for individuals to care for family members who are critically ill or injured, provide an entitlement to pay and unpaid family violence leave, extend the definition of family member that applies in respect to the bereavement leave, compassionate care leave, and family caregiver leave, list those occupations where youth are not permitted to work, and establish regulations making authority related to these changes. The purpose of these amendment is to better align our territorial employment standards legislation and recent changes made by the Canada Labour Code and the Federal Employment Insurance Program, as well as to update certain provisions to better protect NWT workers. Bill 57 received second reading in the Legislative Assembly on June 5, 2019, and was referred to committee for review. Committee received a submission from the Gwich'in Tribal Council stating their support for the proposed changes. We also received a joint submission from the Canadian Cancer Society and the NWT Senior Society. A representative from the Canadian Cancer Society also presented this submission at the public hearing committee held on this bill in Yellowknife on July 25, 2019. This submission suggested two changes to the bill. First, to extend job protection leave from the absence from work due to illness beyond the existing 5 days to 16 weeks to match the federal employment insurance benefit period, and second, to protect the jobs workers who serve as non-medical travel escorts and who do not fit into the definition of family member. While committee is supportive in principle of these requests, it is determined that these changes would be outside the scope of the bill. As a result, committee will not be able to propose these amendments to Bill 57. There are copies of the bill available at the back of the room. I would now invite the Honourable Minister of Education, Culture and Employment to introduce her staff for the record and proceed with any opening comments you may have. Minister Cochrane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'm pleased to be here tonight to discuss Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act. With me today, I have Ms. Sylvia Hayner, our Deputy Minister, Andy Bevan, Assistant Deputy Minister, Labour and Income Security, Mr. Michael Satriano, Director of Labour Development and Standards, Ms. Kelly McLaughlin, Legislative Counsel, Department of Justice, and Mr. Sam Shannon, Director of Policy, Legislation and Communications. Mr. Chair, the primary objective of the Employment Standards Act is to ensure protection for workers by providing minimum standards of employment. The amendments put forward in the bill strengthen worker protection by enhancing parental leave and creating new types of leave for family caregivers and those experiencing family violence. The parental leave changes in this bill will allow workers to take longer unpaid parental leaves, providing job protection at this important time in their lives. When combined with pregnancy leave, a worker could take up to a year and a half off to care for their newborn baby, which is 6 months longer than is currently protected in the Act. Employees who share the leave with their partner are eligible for an additional 8 weeks of leave, encouraging parents to share the benefit between them. A longer period of parental leave allows employees who are eligible for federal parental EI benefits to access the new extended parental EI benefits and employment insurance parental sharing benefit and take full advantage of a longer period of leave. This bill also allows more workers to take time off work to care for family members in time of need. It creates a new family caregiver leave to care for family members who are critically ill or injured. And it extends compassionate care leave for end-of-life care by an additional 19 weeks. For both these types of leave, the bill expands the definition of family member so that more workers can provide care to families when needed, regardless of their blood relationship. Finally, the bill takes the significant and important step of creating family violence leave, a new type of leave in the Northwest Territories. This will provide a combination of paid and unpaid leave to support workers in responding to different types of family violence situations. Workers will be entitled to time off work to seek medical attention, attend counseling, relocate, or attend legal appointments. Introducing family violence leave is an important part of protecting workers in times of need. Mr. Chair, these amendments align with the Government of Canada's changes to the Employment Insurance, or EI, program and the Canada Labour Code, and offer employees the flexibility to address personal situations while maintaining their employment status. The Department engaged stakeholders on the proposed amendments through stakeholder interviews and an online survey. Thoughtful and positive feedback was received from residents, business, labor, and community organizations across the Northwest Territories. A What We Heard report is available on the EC website. I appreciate that members of this committee have been highly supportive of our efforts to bring these important amendments forward, and I thank you for the insightful questions during the review process. These leave provisions support our NWT workforce in navigating important and oftentimes challenging moments in life by strengthening job security during time away from work. Message show. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister Cochrane. Does committee have any general comments or questions before we begin the clause-by-clause review? Seeing none, does the committee agree to conduct a clause-by-clause review of Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act?
Agreed.
Thank you, committee. We will defer the title of the bill until the end and begin with consideration of the clauses. There are 14 clauses in the bill. We will bunch them together as best we can. Please turn to page 1 of the bill. Thank you, committee. Clause 1 and 2.
Agreed.
Thank you. Clause 3 and 4.
Agreed.
Thank you. Clause 5 and 6.
Agreed.
Clauses 7 and 8.
Agreed.
Clauses 9 and 10.
Agreed.
Clauses 11 and 12.
Agreed.
Clauses 13 and 14.
Agreed.
We will now return to the bill number and title Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act. Does committee agree? Does the committee agree that Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act, is now ready for consideration in committee of the whole? Mr. Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move that Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standards Act, be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. Natalie. The motion is in order. The motion is on the floor. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Bill 57, an act to amend the Employment Standard Act, will be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in committee of the whole. I would like to thank the minister, your staff, and the committee staff for all the hard work they did. As well, I'd like to thank people that came to the meeting here, and to thank everybody that did make submissions to us at this point in time. At this point in time, I would like to adjourn the meeting.